topic I've been given is working with young ladies. And the slides have been projected, so we'll be able to follow through. And in particular, this afternoon, the topic now, say young ladies, juma. And say you can't young ladies are men kase a mebnu nkwa, because I believe in the tree mebnu is more of teenagers. But when we talk about young ladies, it includes teenagers and those probably a little bit older than teens as well. So probably in the brackets of 13 to 35 years for young ladies. So the first thing we want to look at or to try and define is the purpose of the women's ministry. Have a look at the history of COP UK in the context of the women's ministry. And then how do we define a woman? What is your perception? What is your understanding of who a woman is? So we know that the purpose of the women's ministry, it exists to support the holistic development of the woman. Nti bibi biara efa oba hono, the women's ministry no ye gina ho se ebeboa na ebema oba no watumpon. The ministry as well is there to encourage women to pray for the church and intercede for the leadership of the church, to help women to build a strong family life, function as a good wife, a good mother, teaching the women how to keep the home, how to raise children, things like cooking, nutrition. So anything regarding the life of a woman. Basically, the women's ministry's role is to ensure that we are able to impart this knowledge to the women in the church so that they'll be able to serve the society, serve their community, serve their families. And then also, the women's ministry is also there to render support as well to the needy in the community. In say born to far, women's ministry no yagina say be bompa ya ma sorry no sana yanim no magina ho say be chire yehu sania ye be siesie yehu sana ye be hwe yemfie sania ye be hwe yenkwala sania ye be ye yade nyina nti ye ba emeko meet na yanim say ye be sia bibi efa imma ho a be boa wo yankasa ya brabo mu na enye enu nkwa ye de community no nso. Thank you very much, Mommy. So Mommy will help with the interpretation. We wanted it to go a bit faster, but I think if Mama Esther helps, it will be good. Right. Next slide, please. So, sorry, stay on this slide for a minute. So the other thing as well we want to also look at is the fact that in the history of COP, when COP started, there were lots more older women or older people in the church. We hadn't got to a stage where, we had a lot of younger ladies or young children or youth in the church. And so when from that perspective, we realized that any time we met as women's movement, it was basically us, the older women, that were meeting, because that was the demography at the time of the church. But now when you look at the demography of the church in the United Kingdom, as you can see on the screen, we are a membership of 19,000 at the moment, as at the end of 2018. And so at the moment, when you look at the 13 to 35 age brackets, we have 45%, which is equivalent to 9,000 young people, teenagers and young adults within our church. That's basically what Mama Esther has said. So basically, the demography of the church is changing. It's not just us, the older women, but we've now got to cater for the younger adults, the younger women that are in our midst. And it's very important that we actually seek to know that that is the case. We need to know that that is the case that we are in.
Na emaba ne mabun edoso no e wo se ya dwen won so ehu hallelujah eka ya ne mpanyufo no ehu.
And then going on to Vision 2023, as we all know. And we realize that our chairman is very particular about the young adults in the church, the teenagers in the church, the young ladies in the church. So I've got two sort of quotes from our chairman on the screen there, and one of them that I think is very notable is the fact that he said that any society that hates its youth and children has no future. And then he also spoke about the fact that for Vision 2023, possessing the nations is not a thing for old people, but it's actually for young people, because they will take our dreams and they will run with it.
Emabunu etimi tumrikano enti ne chese na dwen ne esi emabunu so bebre efise omo na wa hoden a omo betumrika akofa won ewe wiase no aba Kristo nchen.
Amen. So again, when you look at the Vision 2023 document and the women's ministry, there is a very specific point there about the virtuous ladies group, which the National Women's Ministry will speak about after this presentation.
Say ya hwe sa inyichire empemu mienu ani aduonu no so a ye wo emaku dwumadi ne bi so wo ho a omo abia eno no so ye maame no ebeka ho asem a eye emaku no edwumadi.
So in the document it states the fact that the women's ministry is to work with the youth ministry, the young ladies, to bring them up and to prepare them for the future.
Enti ya wo mu se ye no ma ye nyi aye maku penifo no ye be kire mabaawa no ama won so enyi awo emu a wo so be kire na ma asore no anya daachi.
And as we know, the theme for this year is I will build my church.
The young sorry buta ni say mercy ma sorry.
And the young ladies as well have a part to play in building the church. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we need to do is to understand our young ladies. And I've just listed here a few attributes of our young ladies in COP UK, which I would like us to look at. So the young ladies that we currently have in our church are people who are highly skilled and professionals in their jobs. I mean, you speak to certain young ladies, and the positions that they hold in their workplaces is quite fantastic. Senior managerial levels, they are doing lots of big and great things in their workplaces.
Na yama bunu so no se ya de asoro ne ya chinchinchimu ehwehwe ya ni ya hu si yama bunu so eye nkrofo a onga ye nimudifo esu ade akọ akira enwuma a wo ye no wo so eye emu mpanyifo a wo ye adwuma akese ewo wiase a yetime boa won a ebeboa ye.
The young ladies, in the church as well, I would say are of a different culture. We know that we are from, our native land, and we've probably come here to settle, to adapt, and to, work in the land and everything. But our young ladies, some of them now have actually been born and raised in this country. So the culture is totally different from what we have known. Africa.
na yɛhwɛ sɛ ne yɛatete wɔ mo so wɔ ebibiri mu maa mu aborɔfo maa yi mu yɛ na ohu sɛ ɛsono wɔ mu suban ɛna ɛsono yɛ suban yɛne yɛn no nso nsonsonoeɛ ɛdɛm.
And that's mainly to do with the environment that they've been brought up in.
ɛno ne nyinaa kyerɛ faako ne a yɛtete wɔ no ɛhɔ ne ɛsu ne te no ebi na wɔn nso wafa.
Probably contrary to belief, I believe that our young ladies are willing to learn.
Me gidi sɛ yɛmabunu no so ɔmo asiesie ɔmo ho sɛ ɔmo besua.
And they have an inquisitive spirit. Why? Because even through the educational system in this country, they are encouraged to ask the question, why? Because they want to know, the source, the ins and outs of everything that they are doing, so they can have a full understanding of anything that they do.
Yɛhwɛ yɛmabunu no so a one ne ka bibi kakra na obisa sɛ adan ɔmo yɛ adan nkrɔfoɔ efi sɛ daa no ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo hunu ne awo yɛ no ɛne ne awo pɛ sɛ wukoduru.
And that is not a bad thing.
Ɛnyɛ ade bɔne.
Yeah, because I believe that people who ask questions are actually very intelligent people.
Emi gidi sɛ ɔmo ebisa nsɛm no ɔmo yɛ nkrɔfoɔ a ɔmo wɔ nimdeɛ.
And then our young ladies as well are adaptable. So they can, if you give them something to do, they'll be able to add their knowledge and their insight and, change it into something which even becomes more beautiful. They are very adaptable.
Wɔn so yɛ nkrɔfoɔ a ɔmo tumi ne awode bi besi bia otumi yɛ adwuma ɛna afei ɔmo nimdeɛ no wode bibi hyɛ ne nsa ɔde ne nimdeɛ no keka ho a na wa ne awodwe sɛ wukoduru kura no watwam wɔ hɔ akoduru ne ɛwɔ akyiri na wa ɛyɛ ɔnwanwa.
And then the other thing as well about our young ladies is that they want to be understood.
Omo so dia ni omo pese omo ti ase enti ne yefra omo adan
omo pese yeti omo ase
omo pese yesu yeti won ase ema yehu se ne omo ye no so nti ase wom.
Yes. And then also they want a voice at the table. So if we're doing something, they want to be involved in the discussions because they believe and they know they have something to bring to the table.
Omo so say wo ni omo ye bibi a ompese wo nkuto wo be fa adwen na wo de abrɛ wo ompese wo no nyina abo mu fa adwen no efi so onim se na adwen no so ode beba no ebeboa.
So I want us to take these points as positive things, not negative things.
Me pese ye fa saati se eye ade eye nkunimudi adwen enya ade adi nkukuo eba.
Next slide, please. So recently as well, we did a survey and we asked mainly the teens and the young ladies.
Yeah, so yeah, hwehwemu enti ebisa amabaawa no ne mrantie no wo madwen.
Yeah, about the women's ministry, what we can do to make it more appealing to them, more attractive to them, and these are some of the things that they said.
Ebisa wo niema emeku ne ye ya ebema won ani agi na ebeye wo akono enti wo so muaya omo de maaye ne ebi na ye bekan.
So the first thing, which I think is I put it as number one because it's something that's really on their hearts. Is that they are highly misunderstood. So they feel sometimes like when they come to us and they present something to us, we can't understand where they are coming from. And then they also feel misjudged. So a lot of the times you hear phrases like, oh, the young people, they are disrespectful. So it's a blanket statement. Everybody. Doesn't matter whether you've met them. So whether you have related to the person or not, that bracket is there. They are disrespectful. They are this. And that's the kind of names that we give to them. So they are misjudged. They also feel underrepresented. So again, I think now these days we're doing quite well in terms of leadership in our local executives, district executives. they are not really present in those kind of positions of authority to be able to take decisions. So they are underrepresented.
Eya na yebu anga bonfia sa na omodwe enti si ye bibi kura ye nka wo embem.
But these days, I believe that now we're having younger deaconesses being called in and stuff, which is very good. So we thank our leaders and our national head and all those who have gone before us as well. The other thing as well that they mentioned is that they feel like we don't have a relationship with them. We don't draw them closer to ourselves. So there's no friendship. So they don't feel comfortable to come to us. And then as well, they feel that sometimes in the women's ministry and programs and activities that we run, there's not enough relevant activities for them. So we're always talking about marriage, always talking about children, always talking about something to do with older women, but when it comes to them, they feel out of place.
And as a woman by Yantamwa, Adia Nijimwa, Yakahu, Assembly, Awarisem, and Mofra, and Minema, and Tinaya say Omodi, Omon Kahu. And
then the last point I've put here is that it seems or it comes across as if we are not willing to hand down the baton, and I'll explain. Next slide, please. So we have the problem of the baton.
And no anyone how.
And when we talk about the baton, what exactly are we talking about? We're not talking about power in terms of trying to take over from us. But the legacy of what the women's ministry is about. So I have this picture here and I've asked the question, what do you see? So I'd like a few people to just give some responses. What do you see from the picture? Can we get a mic, please, so we can just get a few responses?
But we could see that they are running in a track.
Thank you. Yes, we can see they are running in a track.
Yeah, I can see some one handing over a button to the other person.
Thank you. Okay, I'll carry on then, since I think we've got a few responses. So as you can see from the picture, when I saw this picture, I thought it was a very good picture because personally, I thought one of the things that maybe somebody may see is the person's green hair. Green hair.
Green be bonitino.
Green.
Manini.
So one of the ladies there has got green hair, and sometimes that is how we can perceive our young ladies. We see them at the first instance, and all of a sudden we judge.
Green.
But what you can also see from the picture is highly trained athletes. You can see passion. You can see determination. And then you realize as well that the lady in front, I think from Jamaica, those in green, she's running ahead, looking forward, whilst her colleague is handing the baton over to her. So she's quite focused.
Wo say wo ordinary simirika na wo tu no so a nani abre dendenden a ne nua no so epeso ode aba ne ma na oje wonachi.
So what does this tell us about working with our young ladies?
E dey na kire ye kwan a ye ne ye mabu no ebe nante.
The legacy of the women's ministry.
Maku adwumadi na e dey na e kire.
What are we going to hand down to our young ladies? What do we want our young ladies to learn from the women's ministry? How do we want them to take over from us? Are we equipping them enough to be able to take over from us? Before these ladies, got onto the track, they would have done lots of training together.
And
I believe as well that every single time in their training, they'll discuss various strategies, different ways to be able to win the race. What we'll do when we get onto the track. If something happens, this is what we're going to do to fix it. And so you can also see, like I was saying, the lady in front, she is actually running. She's not standing still. And it's a strategy in the relay race, which basically helps the momentum to carry on as the person before is handing the baton over.
And
so that means that as leaders, in order for us to be able to hand over or inculcate our young ladies into the ministry, it means that the young ladies need to see us being excellent in what we do. Because that is the example that they will see and they will follow. And in that verse, 1 Corinthians 9:24, it says, "Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one will get the prize?" And it says, "Run in such a way to get the prize."
And na Corinto fun medi kai tin kru imodu nu na ne kan. Se na mu nim se won etu mirika ni nyina. Omu tu se be ya omu benya aketua. Nanso enye omu nyina na nya ne odi kan no enenya.
So it says, "Run in such a way to get the prize." So the race that we are running is we are building the women's ministry. We are building the church. We are working towards building our faith. And so it means that everybody has to come on board. Everybody has to go through the training. And those of us who have gone ahead need to be able to train those who are coming behind. Next slide, please. So like I was saying, we have a legacy to pass on. So Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children."
And was a winya dear Emma one away yet, you know. Now, Mabusam, eti do me and say, "You do you me no necase? Obia, or you ni papa, eja a winya dear Emma nat nemba, and nananum."
So we can ask ourselves a question as deaconesses: what inheritance are we leaving within the women's ministry for the young ladies?
And to me, beside me, who say, Esther, a day winya dear and I would dija or ma a dear children.
And then I've written 3 points here as well that I want to bring out in terms of sometimes how we react to our young ladies, which sort of prevents them from getting close to us or prevents them from taking up that baton that they're supposed to take. So one of the words I've written there is indifferent. So basically what I mean by that is that a lot of times we don't really engage with the young ladies. Whether they do well, they succeed, or they don't succeed, we're not really bothered.
ye mo ye ho modi ema ye ma no se ade a ye ya kire omo se wo mo bo ho modi ana se wo mo ho modi se wo osua se wo nsua emfa ye ho ye de ye wiwi a ye pansam.
But if you believe that the women's ministry is a good inheritance, just like any other inheritance, if you're going to hand it over to your child or anybody, you'd want to make sure that the person knows the value of what they're getting. You want to make sure that the person also knows how to handle that inheritance that they are getting.
Na say ye jitu mu yi se meku ni ade a eye de a na o se ye ma ye mani hunu e se ade ne ye na mkwana anu su hunu se ade ne de eye japade a ne bo ye din eye adwuna de a eye a ese bisom na say ye tumi ma wo mu hunu se ye adwuna de papa de a won so de ahodin besom na say ye ni ho a omo so atumi de aye adwuma na won so de a kire won ma.
Sometimes as well, I hear feedback from the youth or the young ladies that we have an attitude of can't, won't, don't. And again, I'll explain. Sometimes we are like, I don't want to know anything about the youth or the young ladies. I won't do anything with them, and I can't do anything with them.
Family ne omo pe bia omo nye mintumi no omo mbomu nya adwuma omo mpese omo ne me adwuma me no omo nya adwuma na ye gya ne totra sa.
And then the other thing as well is sometimes as well we feel intimidated by them because of the skills, the resources, the talents that they have. And so when we see them performing and doing well, sometimes better than ourselves, we get intimidated.
To da bi so aye yebu ye ho abomfia e kire say ye hwe ne ma kese a ye ma ne tumi ya na ye nim si ye ntumi nye enti ne ne ye gya ne sa.
But remember that Jesus said we will do greater works.
Na mama yanka say Yesu ka say mo be ye enema kese.
So if we have done great works and our young ladies come and do greater works, enye bone.
Na say yeah na say ye ma ne be ye enema kese e chen ye ya, it's not sin.
Thank you. So it actually means that the legacy that you had, you've been able to pass it down well such that it will have a long-lasting impact and effect within the church and within the society.
And inti awase awunya dia yenye e wase yetumi ye ni yie edi ema nchiriman na ma ye hunu se ampa ni aye de ade na agya ne de e be ma ade na akọ akiri.
So sometimes some of the examples or some of the things, for instance, I've heard, just to put things in context. For instance, a young deaconess has come to church early on a Lord's Supper Sunday.
To say enema bi am pese bi a abayo a ya fa no se oba asomfo wa ba sori ntem da na Awurade adidida.
And then she's prepared the Lord's table.
Na wa be ye Awurade aduane no.
And then an older deaconess comes much later on.
Na
dismantles the whole thing.
Na enema no ababa wa na be ye no. Ni ya so onya sa ne ye no. No wa be kan afutu no wa ye ne ngongonan.
And then she does it again.
No wa san ye ne foforo.
Because she feels that the young deaconess didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done. But then after the service, she didn't call the person to explain why it was wrong and how you should do it the next time. So this is an example of not handing over the baton very well. So if we're actually afraid that, our young ladies are not going to know what to do, it's because we are not teaching and training them. Thank you. Next slide, please. So what are some of the things that we can do to overcome these hurdles and help to integrate? So the first thing is we need to have a change mindset. And I think that's probably the biggest. All the other ones, I think, come under the change mindset. So when we look at the case of the Samaritan woman, initially nobody really wanted to interact with her because of her past lifestyle and everything. But when she was transformed and she met Jesus and she went into the town, everybody listened to her. They had a changed mindset.
Say Samaria ni biana. Kana na bra na wo mu no ntino. Obia ni asem okwa emfo obia ho. But obebe hu Yesu no na osade ekọ okro ni mu no. Enipa fiase etie no. Efise na wasesa na adwen. Na wanya abrabo su foforo. Ne kro ode kasa no. Na asesa.
And then again, within our mindsets, we need to remember the ultimate goal that we are building the church. And everybody is needed to build a church.
Na ya dwen mu no. E wo se ye hu si yesi asore. Na ososo obia so hu se yesi asore. Hallelujah.
Another thing as well we can do is to just be respectful of each other.
Na ne edi tu ho no se esi edi obuo eni nidie ema ye ho.
If you give a respect to a younger person, it doesn't make you less of an older person.
Se odi obuo ma wo ba eno nkyira sa wo nya maame.
And so, as long as a young lady has been ordained as a deaconess, she's a deaconess. She's not a lesser deaconess because you've spent 20, 30 years as a deaconess and she's just come in 6 months. She's still a deaconess.
Se ya fa obi ababaawa oba asomfo. Na ya de ya papa no de o monsa gu no so bo mpa ya ma ne pa ono yepe. Enya se bia wo wa ya 20 years mfinchi aduasan duanan no enti wo chen no. E wa se wo di obuo e ma no se ne a wo pese ono di obuo e ma ono.
We know that obviously as older women we have life experience, we have wisdom, that is a given. And I'll come to speak about the young ladies themselves, but even the Bible has commanded us that we should respect one another. So 1 Peter 2:17 says, show respect to each other.
Enya se e wa se Peter timienu no yimu do nso na kire se yemfa obuo ni nidi e ma ye ho.
Okay. Next slide please. I'm trying to run quickly because of our time. So the other things as well we can do is acknowledge the talents and the skills that they've got and allow them space to thrive. Give them opportunities, give them responsibilities to do. And all of those skills and talents, they will bring it on board and it's building the church.
E wa se ya ma wo so kwan na nyansa ne nimudia ene nsa no dwuma hodo na wo no. Wo mo so de bam na ya ma wo mo kwan ma wo de bam na ya hwe na ya boa wo ma etumi ejina.
Let's mentor them. So when we talk about mentoring, we're talking about teaching, we're talking about training, we're talking about explaining why do you do things the way they do. A lot of times young people, especially within our church setting, they see things outside. They're like, why don't we do things the way they are doing things? So we need to explain, not just say, that's how we do it. Explain the reason behind why you're doing what you're doing.
E wasa ya chire mu chira wo ni enti a ya we e bia adenti ne yakwa awurade adidi chire ne enti a yakwa awurade adidi adenti na ya yese ya tena ha ya gina ha wo chire no a na afi wo di amane no oye na wo so wo di akire na wo hwe se ne a wa chire no oye a wanye ni ya bisa ne na dwen mane chire na dwen a ode ye na chire so okay wa dwen ne ye but say na sesa wo ye no na ni nyina na ye nsawo so na ema adwuma no yetumi ede adwuma no ehye won sa eba no.
So an example, for instance, in the Bible is Ruth and Naomi. We can see that Ruth and Naomi had a very lovely relationship, and Naomi taught Ruth a lot. She'd come from Moab into a new land, so we should have taught her the ways, the culture, everything. And then even to the extent of helping her or supporting her to even find a husband. And Ruth listened to all of this. So they worked in unison and worked together.
So you hear Ruth and Naomi. Who said Ruth, Edi Naomi, a chiba ne memo. And Otie, Naomi so chretreno. Or mindful from our Mumu and Shea, any Muniama, and the son assessor or Nantim, and a root to see you so tea, and to her Naomi, Eboa Ruth, Emaninia Kunu. Hallelujah.
Amen. And then in Titus 2:3-5 as well, it talks about the fact that the older women should teach the younger women.
Na Titus timienu mi ansa ekosi num ni so kyerete ye ma mpanyifo ye nkyerem mabawa no ekwan a esese wo fa so.
So it's actually a command given by God to us to actually teach. Pass
ɛno
on
nti ɛyɛ
what
ɔhyɛ a
you know.
onyame de maa yɛn sɛ yɛn nso yɛnyɛ.
Next slide, please. I'm going to run through this quickly. So again, be intentional when you're... So we want to be intentional and actually go out of our way to reach out to the young ladies. Don't wait for them to come to us, but we are going to go to them. So we're being intentional. Also be innovative in the type of events and programs that you run. Get their inputs. Find out from them what are the things that you like to learn. What is it that you like to know, so that you can work together with them to bring out events and programs that will help better their lives as well. We can think about young ladies conferences in our locales, in our districts, to encourage them as well to be part of the women's ministry. And then, as stated in the Vision 2023, partner with the youth ministry. Get the youth executives involved as well. Find out from them what are things that you like doing in your youth events, and then let's tailor it towards the young ladies and share best practice. Maybe, for instance, you've heard that Salem or OCP is doing a women's event, and because they have a high number of young ladies, you realize that a lot of the programs they do is very tailored towards them. So you may have maybe a smaller group, but you can phone the district women's leader up. Oh, how did you do this program? What were the reasons behind you doing it? What was the feedback from the young people, so that we learn from each other, and then we're helping again to build the church and to grow together.
Now ye ma wo kwan e ma wo so ye adwuma no eno na ye behunu enema wo mu na ye nso ya boa wo ama wo so atumi agina. Hallelujah. Wo ma adwen a edi ne a wo ye na chi no ehia ene ye nso ye de adwen so ama wo na ma ye atumi ne won abom aye adwuma no.
Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so again, some of the topics, for instance, that young ladies would like us to treat in our meetings for them, or specifically tailored to them, is career, identity, becoming a woman of worth, entrepreneurship. We have young married couples as well, so we can speak to them about managing the home, finances, work-life balance. So these are the type of topics that they will be interested in, coming for a women's ministry meeting.
E was a no kasa efa womu inkita hudie adwuma wo ye ene ne awomo pese omo ye se oba ebema na ye oba osumbo ne enema opese oye ena fe nankasa no ahosiesie ene ti se bi opese oye nsawa no adwuma anase ade enum nyina ye nema eyese ye hwe na fe ye chiche womu emfie numu na ye no womu esua ema ne ti se bia emfie dumienu die no emfie aduasa die ne ebeboa won ama won atumi anyi na ye no mu nyina abom aye adwuma no na fe ye kire won okwan ye fa so ne enipa nkita hodi aware nkita hodi ene niema na ebeboa won ama won so atumi asobaton no mu yiye na aboa won.
Next slide, please. Almost done. Okay, and then as well, one thing that I think will help them a lot is for us to give them space to mold their unique culture. In the sense that obviously we are from back home, we've got our African culture, they've been brought up here, and so they've got the British culture, and sometimes the two clash. They want to do something, let's say, based on their culture, but we may have challenges with what they're doing. So let's, again, teach them what our culture is about, why we do things the way we do things, and give them the room to mold their own culture. As long as, we have those basic principles of respect and all those type of things which are good in our culture. Other things which are not so, not so relevant, let's give them space to explore, and then I believe that, eventually they will come out with something which is a good blend of both cultures.
Say ya wo hwe say entity e wo abibiri mumam ene ahanom so entity e na ensonsone awum enti e wo say ye ma omote ase ye no ho entity e na ahanom so entity e ye de ma won na won so wankasa ye jai ya chire won na wan kasa wo jai na wan so wafa won ho adwen ehu kwan ya won so be fa so a omo be ka sa na ema no mienu abom na omo atumi ene ya anya anyonkofa enti ni se yetumi no omo nya sa anyonkofa no na ye chire won a na ye ma won kwan na ye hwe won so ne a omo di firi mu ba no na ebeboa ne emmoa ne yetumi ato ye bo a chire won a ebeboa won ama won atumi aben na fe ye no omo atumi abom aye adwuma.
And then the other thing as well is, let's not assume that they know. Maybe, for instance, you see, a young lady or a young person doing something. Don't assume that they know better. Teach them.
Maya ni say omunim. Say we hu so aye we do onim ade pa, we do o ye say. Man enya wadwen sa, ebi a onim. Ne awu onim no onim. Enti say ya nya yadwen so omunim dada. Na ya nya wo mo sa. Emwaye nti yem hu se ye beka na wo so aka na fe ye ntimi ehu ne aye de beto na ama nema aye kama
je me de beka mama Esther de waka no se omu ya de na ebia atochi mana say it's gone a bit crooked. Mema yen dream say, oh, na omunimba, omuna mwasheda na mwaye nisa. Ebia na omunim. So there's that aspect of well. And so say ye church omu say, oh, adia no sa na ye no. And this is the reason. Wenti anso na ye no sa. Until next time omuba sa adia no ombe hu sa na ombe tutunyama. Amen. And then the very last slide, please. So here again, I just wanted to showcase some of the things that our young ladies are doing out there. Most of us, for instance, may not be on social media, so you may not know certain people, you may not know certain things that our young ladies are doing, but we have many of them, for instance, who are Pensa presidents, Pensa executives. They are leading people of 30, 40. They are presiding elders in their own right. So they have a lot of skill. They have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of wisdom. They are able to pull things together and make things work, which I must admit, some of us, if we were left to do some of these things, we probably won't be able to do it. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them the room. Give them the space. And I believe that as we do that, we will really see all the goodness that God has put in them come to light to help build the church.
Me pesa mi yi sa yi chire edi chire enema kese a ye mabunu no reye ebinumu etumi ye enema kese ebi ye pensa edikanfo ebinumu kura eye presiding elders a ye won kasa preside wo mo ene wo mo preside wo mo namfofo
Presiding elder no dia mechanism me fa ne say bia obi wo ho ana oye pensa president a ebia ni nipa na ewo ho a o kire mo ade ana say o lead omu no ebeye ti say local assembly nti enu na make say omu ti say presiding elder and all right, that's what I meant.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Nti mpacho ye de besi ha